What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing awesome and taking care of yourselves. Welcome back. Another lovely day, another lovely day. I got to tell you, I'm enjoying the spring weather starting to come in. Feels like summer out there. We're getting like some 70s where I'm at, so hopefully you're getting some nice weather as well. So I wanted to talk today about this dragon myth and how it's basically been brought through the centuries and the millennia and been kind of like this pop cultural icon, but I believe that it's more linked to the Alpha Draconian race that's been coming to Earth for millennia, probably a lot longer than that, probably millions and millions of years, since we've got dinosaurs dating back to 62 million years ago. So my theory, and we'll go through some facts and findings, and we'll see what's out there and where this dragon myth, as far back as we can find it, originated. Of course, things always go back farther than what is really documented, right? Because not every documentation makes it to today. That will change now that we have digital documentation, won't it? It'll be interesting to find out, how things progress. But anyway, there's kind of two different alien species that I think this might be linked with. One is there is reportedly a pterodactyl race that's been helping us down in the Dulce base, down in the 8th floor of the Dulce base, for many decades now. They're working with us in a spiritual aspect. They're helping us to develop our understanding of our spirituality, understanding different dimensions spiritually, and how we're going to be able to get there as a species, or maybe hopefully in an altruistic way, our government will assist us in getting there. However, knowing the military and knowing that they only use their might for right, we'll probably decide to use it for something to have a military might over something else, right? So that's my theory. Now, what else? Okay, we have obviously the Alpha Draconians that there was a man named Robert and also Randy Kramer, who have taught, and of course Corey Goode and David Wilcox, who have talked about this ad nauseum, right, at length, about these Alpha Draconians that they came, they worked here, then they took a whole bunch of people, they went up to Mars, they worked with the Germans up at Mars, and they have these humongous wings that come off their back. They have these 14-foot tall bodies. They can mind rape you. They can mind erase you. They can do whatever the hell they want to do, according to Corey Goode. And even according to Randy Kramer, who talked about this at length. Real quick, while we're talking about this, I had a couple comments about the commercials, so I'm going to try to turn those down. It seemed like they were turned up, not purposefully. So I'm going to try to ask them to not have too many commercials, so we can keep this commercial, not necessarily commercial free, but commercial minimal. So hopefully we'll see that in the future, starting with today. But anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts and theories on the dragon phenomena that's, kind of perpetuated its head in our pop culture for the past, few centuries. And let's take a look at an article so that we can kind of see how this started, or at least what they believe it, where they believe it started. So I found a nice article on Live Science about dragons. Dragons, a brief history of mythical fire-breathing beasts. Now, there's all kinds of awesome movies about dragons. I don't want this to necessarily just be about dragons, but I think if you haven't seen Reign of Fire, I think it is, with Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, dude, do yourself a favor, man. That movie's bad fucking ass. Go check that out. But there's lots of movies that have dragons in them that I'm sure people know more than I do. Game of Thrones, The Hobbit, all that stuff. Dragons are fascinating. Supposedly they breathe fire. Supposedly they have wings. Supposedly they can fly. Supposedly there's people that have actually captured them on film, even in today's time. Dragons are among the most popular and enduring world mythological creature. Well, they might not necessarily be a myth now, might they? Dragons are known in many cultures, from the Americas to Europe to India to China. They have a long and rich history in many forms and continue to populate our books, films, and television shows. Brave heroes routinely fight to slay the beasts, and even Michael, Archangel Michael in the Bible, struck down Satan, who was supposedly a dragoness type beast, which they'll get to in just a moment. It's not clear where stories of dragons first emerged. Even live science admits this. But the huge flying serpents were described at least as early as the age of the ancient Greeks and the Sumerians, so that puts us back a few thousand years, doesn't it? The Penguin Book of Dragons, which is made by the Penguin Company, states in the ancient world they took the form of enormous serpents, ready to crush with their coils and kill with their venomous breath. And for much of the history of dragons, they were thought of as being like any other mythical animal, sometimes useful and sometimes protective, and other times harmful and dangerous. So that's what they state about the previous history of dragons. Now, that may have changed when Christianity spread across the world and dragons took on a decidedly sinister interpretation and came to represent Satan. And then in medieval times, most people who heard anything about dragons knew them from the Bible. And it's likely that most Christians at the time believed that, the actual literal existence of dragons might actually be real, because we didn't have TVs, we didn't have the cell phones, we didn't have, a lot of communications. If anybody said, hey, I saw a dragon, well, maybe people believe them, In Leviathan, in the Bible, there's a massive monster described in detail in the book of Job, chapter 41, that sounds like a dragon. And here's the paragraph here. Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between. They are joined fast to one another. They cling together. They cannot be parted. Its snorting throws out flashes of light. Its eyes are like the rays of the dawn. Flames stream from its mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot over burning reeds. Its breath sets coals ablaze and flames dart from its mouth. Now, this sounds kind of like a stegosaurus, right? The stegosaurus has those like big shields on the back of its spine that protected it from predators. And if it breathed fire, well, then maybe it might have been a stegosaurus that they were seeing. And that would be interesting, wouldn't it? That the dinosaurs were around during the time of the biblical writing. That'd be interesting. But belief in dragons is not just based in Christianity, right? For millennia, no one knew what to make of these humongous bones that were found in hard evidence. But they turned out to be dinosaurs, right? Well, we don't know if dinosaurs had feathers on them. We don't know if dinosaurs breathed fire. We don't know what their capabilities really were. All we do is have the bones. That's it. And everything else, no matter what they tell you, is conjecture. So, shit. Could these things have been able to, mind read? We don't know, because we don't have their brains. Could these things have been able to just destroy? Maybe. Could they have talked? Maybe. Because we don't have any of the muscles. We don't know if they had vocal cords or not. All we can do is base our ideas of a reptilian onto these 62 million year old bones. That's it. I mean, that's the funniest part of the whole thing, is that they could have wings. We don't know. Most people can easily picture a dragon. Back to the article. People's ideas and descriptions of dragons vary dramatically. Some dragons have wings and others don't. Some dragons can speak and breathe fire while others can't. Some are only a few feet long and others span miles. Some dragons live in palaces, I should say, under the ocean, while others can be found in caves and inside mountains, such as Smaug in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. Now, here's an interesting idea, right? Is that they stated that there could be some that were only a few feet long and others could span miles. I mean, it kind of makes me think about iguanas to real dragons to flying. It also makes me think about these dragon-esque creatures that we're seeing outside of O'Hare Airport. These huge flying dragons, basically, is what people have described them as multiple times over and over and over. People who have worked there, people who have flown there, people who were just walking by, people who live in the area have seen these large, like 7 to 9 to 10 foot tall beings that had red eyes and just flew off in a screech with wings that looked like a fucking dragon. So, wouldn't it be interesting if dragons have always existed, and maybe thousands or millions of years ago they were really long, really big, and then over time, as they maybe had to go underground to survive, the incident that happened 62 million years ago, maybe they evolved over time to only be 7 to 8 feet tall, going from miles long to down to a smaller creature just to survive. And now they're coming up to the surface and they're trying to figure out what the hell are these other beings doing. They're flying in the skies now too. That's our gig, and they're flying these metal birds around. And I mean, it would make sense for them to just show up at O'Hare because it's the busiest airport on the planet. And they just show up and they're like, hey, oh, cool. Let's see what they have. Oh, they got these big-ass metal birds? Well, I wonder what they can do. Let's see. Maybe they want to start commerce with us. Who knows, or maybe they're just evil, like people think, right? Or maybe they are indeed the Draco reptilians. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fascinating to think about. They could be the Draco reptilians. Or we could have our own reptilians that have been here for over 62 million years and have evolved, like we talked about, underneath the ground and have just started to pop up in the past few centuries. That might be a real thing. The book by folklorist Carol Rose, Giants, Monsters, and Dragons, an Encyclopedia of Folklore, Legend, and Myth, published in 2001, states that dragons have composite features from many other beasts, such as the head of an elephant from India. I've never seen that. That of a lion or a bird of prey in the Middle East, and numerous heads of reptiles, such as serpents. Now, she brings up an interesting point. Serpents. Many alien abductions have talked about seeing their abductors wearing suits, whether they're grays, whether they're small grays, tall grays, whether they just have scaly skin, not necessarily the reptilians with the wings, but just a scaly skinned 5 foot tall, being. Many of these abductors, and even the ones that look like humans, can at points have a symbol that has a snake wrapped around it, or just a symbol of a snake, or a symbol of some serpent in the badge that's on their uniform. It's very fascinating to me. It's almost like, are they pledging allegiance to a certain reptilian group? Are they pledging allegiance to a certain reptilian group here on the planet or elsewhere? We also have that medical badge that has a snake wrapped around it. Now, what the hell is that all about? It almost seems too good to be true for us conspiracy theorists, right? Well, it's called the caduceus symbol, which is a short staff entwined by two serpents, sometimes surmounted by wings, while the rod of Alcipius is one with a single snake. Now, what's the meaning of that? The snake figure was associated with Asclepios, an ancient Greek god of medicine, and possessed benevolent properties. It was believed to be able to cure a patient or a wounded person just by touch. The snake is also connected with pharmacology and antisepsis, as snakes possess anti-venom against their own poison. Really fascinating, right? So snakes have certain capabilities. Snakes also are associated with apparently being able to cure a patient just by the wounded touch. Maybe that goes back to some reptilians that maybe did this in the Greco times, right? Maybe they had instances or events where they were touched by these beings and they were able to cure them, whatever the ailment was, and they processed this into a god, and that god got passed down through the centuries and thus made its way all the way into our symbols. Our symbols that we put on things aren't just things that we create out of thin air, they're created from our ancestors, and many things that were created from our ancestors were created from some sort of truth. Now, is there a God of lightning? No, we understand that that's science. Is there a God of thunder? No, we understand that that's also science and weather, and it's natural. But I believe that there are also stories that are passed down from our ancestors that have truth to them, such as alien abductions, such as alien encounters, such as seeing flying saucers, such as seeing flying craft, such as seeing our government picking up crashed craft, despite what the Pentagon report just stated. I believe in our ancestors, and I believe that they were telling us the truth, and I believe that they would give us information as it came along to them. Now, going back to the article, there's a natural history to dragons as well that was published by Simon & Schuster in 1995 by zoologist Carl Schucker, who stated that there's many different types of reptilian dragon type creatures, such as snakes, hydras, right? Hydration. They come in the water area. They come out of the aquatic. We have gargoyles that are meant to scare off other beings. We have dragon gods as well. There's really interesting basilisks, wyverns, and cockatrices. So I think it's interesting they bring up the gargoyle aspect as well. Gargoyles, are placed on buildings to ward off from evil spirits, even though they look terrifying. A lot of people have them. And I mean, a lot of areas in Chicagoland have them. A lot of areas in Boston have them. A lot of areas in the older cities, New York, have them. So there's places that still have gargoyles as part of our everyday ongoing architecture. It's really fascinating. So how does this play into the role of, aliens now? Well, we understand, and we've heard from whistleblower testimony that we are working with a pterodactyl race. Did they come from here? They didn't say. They didn't know. There's a lot of secrecy and compartmentalization that comes along with these alien programs. So you might see one walking in the halls, but you might not know anything about that species other than maybe what very little somebody might whisper into your ear without getting in trouble of, conveying state secrets, right? So we also know that there are the the Draco reptilians that are kind of the bad guys of the universe, and that might have played a role into the Bible, And I'm not hyper religious, but I do like to see things come together. And the Archangel Michael, there's a picture on this article of him stabbing down Satan, who looks like a goddamn dragon in this picture. If you want to see it, it's kind of cool. Check it out here. Bada bing, bada boom. If you can see it there. So, I mean, pretty freaky stuff. But, who knows, right? The word dragon comes from the ancient Greek word drakonta, meaning to watch, suggesting that the beast guards treasure, such as mountains of gold or coins of gems. So, do I believe in that? Do I believe that they're guarding gold? No, I don't believe that. But do I think that they made it into the Bible and that there was a real war that happened, and maybe that, do I think there was a real war that happened 2,000 years ago between, Archangel Michael and some alien dragon thing? Probably not. But what I think might have happened was there was, different dimensional war that happened between, the Nordics and the Draco, and maybe one of these beings, these alien beings that people were encountering back in the biblical times, was able to convey what happened maybe 62 million years ago, or maybe thousands of years ago, through telepathy, and give that to Job or whoever wrote about Michael and Archangel Michael and the slaying of Satan, right? Now, what's up with the fire-breathing element of dragons? Apparently, it comes from the medieval depictions of the mouth of hell. So these things are always associated with bad stuff. always associated with hell. For example, the Dutch painter Bosch painted the entrance to hell was depicted as a monster's literal mouth. So it had flames and smokes and characteristics of Hades just coming out of the creature, just belching out. If one believes not only the literal existence of hell, it can also believe in the literal existence of dragons as satanic. And the association, is pretty dang logical. Even Komodo dragons, they have a picture of Komodo dragon on here, has forked tongues that they use to help with smell and taste. And we always associate forked tongues with like dragons, don't we? It's really interesting. Even today, and they summarize up, even today, people believe in Bigfoot, the existence of Bigfoot, the existence of Loch Ness Monster. We have photos of that. We have people who have direct engagement and experience with these dragon-like creatures that are 10 feet tall. We have people that are encountering all kinds of different species, from Komodo dragons that still exist that are 10 feet tall, 10 feet long. And if they bite you, it's fucking over, man, because their saliva has a neurotoxin that paralyzes you, and they can just sit there and munch on you while you have to watch your own death. God damn, that's some hardcore shit. So, I wouldn't want to be up against a Komodo dragon. Not at all. But it just goes to show you that there still are species out there that look very similar to what a dragon would be. Imagine you throw, dude, check this guy out. Okay, Komodo dragon right there. Imagine if you tossed some wings on that bad boy, what's it going to look like? It's going to look like exactly like a dragon if he was standing up. Exactly. And if you had some fire coming out of that bad boy, it'd look exactly like a dragon. And I think that, we really don't know what existed much before our own timeline. We're only here a very brief speck of dust on this planet. And we only can learn what's in books. And what's in books was only printed a few hundred years ago. So think about that for a second. Everything else was written, and it had to be very carefully held together for centuries until it could be printed. So we have a lot to learn as a human species and developing that. But I think dragons are fascinating. I think their origins are fascinating, dating back all the way to the Greco times in ancient Greece, that they did have a god that was similar to a dragon. We also have I did a podcast a long time ago about a god in Peru that is a dragon god. Here, I can pull it up real quick. And they have a statue made for it. It's called, let's see if I can find it. But anywho, yeah, there's a statue of all kinds of different reptilians, but especially, dragons and reptilians, for some reason, seem to pop up pretty regularly. So anyway, guys, what do you think? Do you think that dragons thousands or millions of years ago existed in the way that we see them in movies? Do you think that they went underground and now are starting to come out of underground and showing up at O'Hare and showing up at all these airports and just watching and seeing what kind of metal birds are flying up into their own previous skies? Do you think that that our understanding or hearing about these dragons was actually the Dracos, the 14-foot tall Corey Good reported species that can mind rape and mind manipulate you and steal your thoughts? These guys now, they're only about 14 feet tall, but maybe back thousands of years ago they were larger. There is an understanding and a theory that the Nordics fought off the reptilians that were using Earth as a base to run their laboratory experiments, and dinosaurs were one of those experiments. And all the different species, from Brachiosaurus down to Stegosaurus, T-Rex, raptors, were all their experiment. They were trying to figure out what's the best body to dominate with, so they can go dominate some other planets with it. Maybe they were using them as robots. I know I'm sounding crazy, but I take pieces of information from all these stories and I put them together. There's a story about Draco reptilian that was cut open by our own scientists doing an autopsy, and they found all these black little balls inside of their veins. It was filled with these balls instead of like, traditional blood. And these balls were AI, an AI species that had invaded the Dracos to use them for its body. I mean, it's fucking just mind-blowing, man. It's just mind-blowing shit. So anyway, guys, I'm going to let you go. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I hope you like, follow, share, subscribe. Please do that. It helps out the podcast tremendously. And please listen in. I'm going to come back with another one right away. So take care of yourselves, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Keep that white light around you. Take care of yourselves and do your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. I do see your comments, so I appreciate the comments. I've eliminated the noise in the background, so I appreciate that. There was a small thing that was in the background, so I fixed that. So I listen to your comments. I appreciate the good ones as well as the creative criticism. So love you guys. Take care of yourselves, and Lockdown Universe out. Question Universe. Forgot that one. Deuces.